Hello, everyone. This is DJC Combat, and today I'm going to be giving my breakdown and prediction for the two big fights on tomorrow's card in Mexico between Moreno and Royval, Yair and Ortega, both 5 round action packed fights. And with me, I have a guest speaker joining me today for these predictions, my good buddy, James Houston. James, how are you doing today?
Good. What about yourself?
I'm
Appreciate
doing
the
pretty good. What are your thoughts just on these fights? Let's start with
invite.
we can talk about some of the other fights later. I know there's one other guy you want to talk about, but
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on the rematch between Yair Rodriguez and Brian Ortega? How do you see that one unfolding?
Well, first off, thanks for having me.
You're
And
welcome.
second, I'm really excited for it. As soon as I saw it was going to be on the UFC Mexico card, sorry, as soon as I saw the UFC Mexico card was announced, I was like, they need to have this fight. The first fight was, I was very, very hyped for that fight, and it was anticlimactic to say the least. Some people will argue Yair subbed him. I don't think it should be a sub. I think that's why it wasn't announced as a sub.
I agree.
Um, I think it's going to be there's a lot of questions surrounding it. For starters, Ortega, I don't think he's fought since then. You can fact check me on that. I don't
Yeah,
think he
he
has.
has.
And that was what, about 2 years ago or something.
Yeah,
Um, so and while he's been off, Yair's fought. Josh Emmett became interim champion of the world, and then he had his title shot against probably the greatest featherweight of all time.
yeah.
You could argue, him and Jose Aldo. Um, so while he's been doing all that, been in training camps, been in fights, Ortega's kind of been on the sideline recovering from injuries and stuff. So yeah, I'm really excited for that one. I think it could have been main event. I think
It
five
should
rounds would
be.
have been good.
I don't know why it's not.
Yeah, I know, because usually they have like the heavier guys above the
Yeah,
lighter guys. But then again, if it's a Moreno fight, you kind of want 5 rounds for Moreno. I don't know. They could have maybe give both of them 5 rounds and just put this one as the main event.
exactly.
But so we'll see what happens with that one. I'm not actually sure. Is it 3 rounds? Is it 5 rounds? It's three
They're
rounds,
they're
right?
both 5 rounds.
The full five. Okay, that's good then because I, I I don't see any other way than to put this one for 5 rounds because
Yeah,
I think like if one of these guys, both of these guys are capable of becoming a champion, so they would be doing 5 rounds if it was a championship fight. And I think that's the way this fight should be. Both guys can go 5 rounds, and both guys are well conditioned for 5 rounds. Um, so I think 3 rounds for this one wouldn't be enough. I don't think. I think they've both proven that they can go the five.
yeah. And what's your prediction for the rematch with Brian and Yair? Who do you think's gonna win that?
Well, last night, as you know, I was rewatching the first fight. I was rewatching it in preparation for this, so I didn't sound stupid when I was talking. Um, so I remember um, recently I was talking about the fight, and I remember I heard people saying Yair dominated what was there, and I couldn't remember that being the case. So I rewatched it last night just to refresh my memory, and Ortega looked good, man. Like his boxing was really, really good. Probably the best boxing we've seen from Ortega. Um, I think he landed the more significant strikes. I'm not 100% sure, but from what I seen, he was being more efficient. I think he cut Yair in the
Yeah,
first minute
he did.
of the fight, and the rest of the round was Ortega controlling him against the fence. Yair was kind of struggling to get off. I think he got off eventually, and then there was a takedown, and then the submission. I don't know if you would call it a submission because his arm wasn't in. It was just the way he moved, popped the
Yeah,
shoulder out like it didn't have his arm in. Because that was one thing I forgot about was Yair. He was setting up the armbar, but he didn't have the armbar. If that makes
no,
sense.
yeah, I
So
agree.
when I see people saying that he got the sub, I'm like, it didn't really though. It didn't really have an armbar position. It didn't have the arm. Like the arm wasn't in. So he wasn't really susceptible to getting subbed, which is he escaped it, but when he escaped it, he popped his shoulder. So if you asked me maybe 2 years ago, I'd probably say Ortega just because he just had that fight with Volk. He was a bit more active. He looked really good against the Zombie. From what I remember, I'm pretty sure he beat him basically striking. Um, and Ortega, no, not Ortega. Rodriguez looked really good against Holloway. I think it would have been like a really close fight 2 years ago, and I'm hoping if Ortega looks like how we remember him looking, it should be a really close fight. I think early on, I think Yair will maybe steal some rounds. He might hurt Brian to the body with some body kicks, I think, and that's probably some of his best weapons. He's got all of his kicks are good, but I think his rear roundhouse to the body and his lead teep to the body are some of his best weapons. So I think he could steal some rounds with that early. And if it goes later, I think Brian will start to grind on him a little bit, and maybe Yair will maybe wilt under the pressure. I think Ortega's going to be able to take him down. He's a jiu-jitsu guy though. I don't think he's going to be getting any wrestling style blast double legs like out in the open. I think if he wants to take him down, he's going to have to push him up against the fence, make it a dirty fight. He's going to have to dirty box a lot as well. Make it a dirty fight and try and get his inside trips, his judo throws, all that kind of stuff. And I think Ortega could sub him, but I also think Rodriguez could finish him if he hits him to the body enough with those, as I said, the roundhouse kicks to the body. So I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's a really, really good matchup, and I think whoever wins should maybe be in next for the title if Max doesn't get too injured against Gaethje.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. So you're saying that you think Ortega wins, or you don't have like an official pick?
I'm I'm going back and forth on it. Like 1 minute I'll say Ortega's going to win, and the next minute I'll say Yair's going to win. Um, Ortega is probably one of my favourite featherweights though, and I really want him to win. But I don't know if I'm confident enough to say he will win, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I know
I
what you
think it
mean.
should be close on paper.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with, what you said there about the submission. Like, I definitely don't think it was an armbar for Yair Rodriguez. I don't think he subbed Brian Ortega. I just think that he was working on a submission, and then Brian Ortega, when trying to pop his arm out, he popped his shoulder, and he already said he was having problems with that shoulder, that
Yeah.
wasn't addressed, and he need to get that addressed. And then unfortunately, it was shown in the worst way possible in the fight. It just popped, and then he got a surgery, took his time off. Now he's coming back. But I just think even though he looked better than I remembered in that fight, he was landing more than I thought. He was starting to work his game. Like he got Yair down, he had him right where he wanted on the ground. Best case scenario for Ortega, there were moments where yes, he was also getting pieced up, and it doesn't help that Brian hasn't fought in 2 years. He's not been active. In general, he's not an active fighter.
Yeah.
Rodriguez has been on a busier schedule. I mean, he looked good in the first against Ortega, absolute clinic against Josh. And I mean, he lost to Volkanovski, but don't all of them lose to him except for
Yeah.
Taporia? So no shame in that. The first time I did pick Brian Ortega to win, I thought he was going to tough out some shots, get a takedown, and then eventually get a sub, which it looked like it was heading to that direction, but we will never
Mm,
know because his shoulder got injured. But now
mm,
I just think there's a bit of a momentum shift, and I think I have to go with Rodriguez based off the activity. And I just don't know if Brian's going to show any evolution with this time off.
mm,
I don't think on the feet he can hang with Yair Rodriguez. He can like land some good shots and walk forward, but ultimately Yair's going to be faster. He's just going to be cleaner than him on the feet. And then even on the ground, like I think Yair was handling himself well on the ground, attacking with an armbar nearly. So I think he has good enough of a ground game to survive on bottom against Ortega if need be. I don't think Ortega will have the offensive wrestling nor top control to like dominate Yair the way Volkanovski did. So I think Yair can defend enough takedowns or get up if he needs to. So I think Yair Rodriguez, I'm gonna say he wins this fight by decision.
Mm,
Because Brian Ortega is tough. I mean, he could knock him out, but
mm,
Brian just
100%,
has one of those uncrackable chins. So I see
yeah,
him taking like a lot of punishment. I think he'll have some moments where he lands and gets takedowns, but I think they'll be like too far in between. But I wouldn't be mad at Brian Ortega winning though, because I know you like Brian. I actually like him too. I was rooting for him to
yeah,
beat Volkanovski when a lot of people painted him out to be the villain in that fight. I was one of the few people who
yeah,
wanted that for a story. I wanted him to become champion, and he was
yeah,
close. I predicted it too. But it's unfortunate Volk escaped and then he lost again. But yeah, unfortunately, I think this is sort of part of Brian's downfall, but we'll see. Maybe the rebirth, like he was referencing with the Eagle and his media day thing, will happen. But
yeah.
I don't know. I'm not banking on it.
Yeah, and
Uh,
what as well, he's getting there a little bit in years, isn't he?
pardon?
What age is he? He's getting kind of up there in age, isn't he?
I think he's like 32, 33, maybe. So it's
Oh,
not too old, but he's not a spring chicken like he was when he fought Holloway. So
yeah, like he's not going to improve everything rapidly.
yeah,
He's kind of he went up, up, up. He might have hit his ceiling. It might not be going down, but it might be at his ceiling and just maintaining, maintaining.
yeah. I do think Brian Ortega was good. I think he had potential. I don't think he sucks as much as people like to say, but
Yeah,
I just think his problem is he fights like way too infrequently.
yeah,
I think
100%.
that's just gonna play dividends here in this matchup with Yair. And I think it would be better for the division if Rodriguez were to win this fight as well, but we'll see. Anything can happen.
100%. Yeah, that's why we love MMA.
Yep.
Like,
And I
will
think
these
that's something else
Ortega
to say.
comes out and flying even in the first 5 seconds?
Oh yeah. What I was gonna say is with Brian's age, if Volkanovski showed us anything last weekend, the 35-year-old curse in these smaller weight classes are real. So if there's a time for Ortega to start a run, it's now before he hits 35. So
Yeah, 100%.
now
That's
let's
now
oh
we can't be fighting frequently.
yeah.
Sorry, I spoke over you there. Sorry, my bad.
No worries, no worries. And now let's talk about the main event: Brandon Royval versus Brandon Moreno 2. I'm going to be honest, I'm not super interested in this fight. I would have much preferred the Amir Albazi matchup. I think that would be a
Yeah,
harder fight for Moreno. I think he had a decent chance. And I'm not saying Albazi would have beat Brandon, but let's say he won. Then it's like,
mhm,
okay, there's no chance of, let's say, Pantoja fighting the same guy again if Moreno lost. Whereas if Moreno loses this fight, we might see Pantoja have to fight the same guy he beat twice straight away.
yeah,
And we're seeing way too many rematches in this flyweight division in the title picture. It's
yeah.
time
I
for
think
something new. But Kate missed weight. Uh, Kai Car France pulled out of the cop fight, and then Albazi had to pull out. So this is what we're getting. Um, I picked Moreno the first time, and I am going to pick him to win the second time, man. I just think that he's far superior to Brandon Royval. I mean, Royval
yeah,
he's talented. He's got creative, flashy striking, dangerous striking. And his ground game is pretty dangerous too. But I think in the stand up, I think Moreno's cleaner. He's just tighter with everything he does with his
yeah,
boxing.
100%.
Um, I think he's better than him on the ground. He can grapple offensively, and Royval doesn't really have good takedown defense. Moreno can exploit that. Moreno just has multiple different ways he could beat him, and I think that um, I just think Royval's coming back too soon from the Pantoja fight. Not in terms of he got knocked out, he needs a break, but I feel like after just losing his first title fight, he would need at least a bit of time to work on himself and make improvements. He's coming back 2 months later against another guy that beat him, and Brandon was already like destroying him before the injury. He took him down. It was pounding
Yeah,
him out on the mat. I think he would have won either way, and I think this time he's going to win again. But without the injury, and I think it will go all 5 rounds because Royval is a tough guy. He's hard to finish. He went the full distance with Pantoja. He's got a good chin. His submission defense has improved. But overall, I don't think he's improved enough to beat Brandon Moreno. What do you think?
I agree with pretty much everything you said. I think Moreno, um, he's a much better boxer. I think if Royval, I think his path to victory would be to try and strike, but at the same time, I think Moreno's striking is just too clean, too crisp. I think if they try and go to the ground, Moreno is amazing. He's an amazing scrambler. Like he can scramble. As we've seen with Royval, I don't want to say he's a bad grappler or anything. But I think against the top grapplers in the division, he's kind of he's like here, they're up here. He's not a bad grappler at all, really. But I think when it comes to the elite grapplers of a division, he kind of starts to fall a little bit, fall a
Yep,
little bit. So I think his path to victory would be to try and strike, but I think Moreno is just a superior striker. I think that would be fair to say. I don't think that's like a wild take or anything like that. I think Moreno, for a small kind of, he's small for the division, I'd say, and but he's really, really strong. Like in the clinch and stuff, he can overpower these guys. From what I remember, I'm pretty sure in the third and fourth Figueredo fight, I'm pretty sure he was able to impose his will against the fence on Figueredo, who was a really, really big guy for the division. Um, so I think if Brandon's going to win if it's by finish, I think it's going to be a submission. I don't think he knocks him out.
me neither.
But I think um, the kind of most what's the word, foreseeable outcome is a Moreno decision. I think it maybe gets it done 49-46 or maybe even 50-45. I'm just going to throw that out there, and hopefully that doesn't age poorly. Uh, but that's the beauty. Um, but yeah, I've got Moreno on this one. I know the last fight I was kind of undecided, but on this one, I definitely think Moreno takes it. But I don't really want to see Moreno versus Pantoja again
Me
just now.
neither.
Like,
Not
even though I think he puts on the most exciting fight with Pantoja, but we've just saw it so many times before.
yeah. Yeah, he put on an exciting fight with him, I agree, but he already lost him like 3 times. If this was like the first time he fought Pantoja, maybe even the second time. I know officially they called it Moreno Pantoja too, but they fought 3 times from Tough. If it was the
Yeah,
first time, I wouldn't care if this would set up a rematch, but he's already lost multiple times. I think it would be good for Brandon and his legacy to take
yeah,
more time in between the third fight and the potential fourth fight to really build himself back up and improve, not take this fight and 3 months later turn around in Rio and fight Pantoja again, because I think that decreases his chances. And again, he's had like so many title shots, so these flyweights need to get it together, man, because they keep like
yeah,
the best, most fresh contenders. They keep pulling out and having canceled fights, so it's almost like Moreno's like the only available guy.
yeah. I think the last five title fights at featherweight have involved Moreno. Well,
Yeah,
if you exclude Pantoja versus Royval, other than
yeah,
that, for the last five fights or so, Moreno was in all of them.
yep,
It does put on very exciting fights, and he's champion worthy, but when he's fought the same guys over and over again, like he's kind of wasting his legacy a little bit just by.
yep,
I'm not saying that it's a bad idea for him to take these fights. It's absolutely take the fights. It's if he's offered them, he should take them because it's big opportunities. But at the same time, we want more fresh faces and names um, for him to fight. So I think the after this fight, he should fight Albazi or Albazi. I don't know how you
yep,
pronounce his name. Um, and then if he wins that, then maybe Pantoja.
yep.
But who does Pantoja's got a fight announced, right?
Yeah, well, he wants to fight on the Rio de Janeiro card, and he's the only Brazilian champ outside of Pereira, and Pereira's fighting at 300. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what they'll do with him in that case. Maybe just throw Cap in there anyway, even though he
Yeah,
missed weight in his last fight. He's on a win streak, so
yeah, throw Cappy or even if Brandon fights Albagia, they could even just throw Kai Kara France in there just as a sacrificial lamb for the event to take place, if you know what I mean.
yeah, even though he's coming off a loss, I mean, it wouldn't be the first time someone coming off a split decision loss got a title shot. So,
Yeah, Jose Aldo, I think his title shot against Piotr Jan, he was
yep,
just split.
Sanhagen too,
Yeah, and he
Dominic Reyes.
he got the fight.
Yep.
So I think that's the only. I love the flyweight division. I think it's one of the most overlooked and entertaining divisions, but it's just
Mhm.
the picture is getting a little bit stale at this point.
Yeah,
I think we need to push. We need to push. Sorry, not we. Dana and the matchmakers. They need to kind of try and push fresh faces. Maybe upcoming talents. I think what age is Moreno now? I want to say he's 33,
nah, he's probably like 30 years old. Look,
30.
Brandon
I'm
Moreno.
still quite young. I say maybe give don't give him a title fight off of
He's
this
30, yeah,
33, yeah.
30
Uh,
on the dot.
oh, 30. Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, I think don't give him this fight with Pantoja if he wins. I think maybe do with him what they did with Max Holloway. Like they could use him to see if the upcoming contenders are quite in that spot yet. And if
Yeah,
it goes through all of them, just give him the title shot after that. But I think straight away, doing it straight away. Um, I don't like the UFC. It's a business at the end of the day, and I don't think that one would bring in too many pay-per-views or views on its own.
yeah,
Just like not, it'll be a really good fight, but it's just we've saw it 3 times before. So
exactly.
if they were to do like a Poirier versus McGregor for, like I don't think, even though it's Conor, I still don't think it would sell that well.
Yeah,
Just simply
that's
because of
true.
how dominant the last two fights have been, especially like Dustin's dominated him for 3 rounds in a row. So
Yeah, especially the last fight, you know?
exactly the last fight, he looked like Khabib on top of him. He probably didn't
Yeah,
know.
he went Khabib on him, like, he ground and pounded him from his full guard like Khabib did, but did even more damage than what Khabib did,
Yeah,
which is pretty insane. Like,
yeah,
that was one of Connor's worst performances.
I know, and one of Dustin's best. Like
Yep.
I'm going a bit off topic here, but
Didn't you say there
um,
was, like, another fight that you wanted to cover real quick before we wrap up?
oh yeah, the opening fight on the main card, like Chris Duncan versus what's the guy's name? Could you search it quickly? I know who the guy is. I just forgot his name. It's the
Chris
opening card.
Duncan versus Manuel Torres.
That's the one. So Chris Duncan, I'm going to be probably be a bit biased because he's Scottish and I'm also Scottish. Um, but just that's one I'm really excited for that one. I think Chris Duncan's going to come out. He's probably going to get hit a little bit. He's probably going to get hurt. But make no mistake, Chris Duncan is he will not give up. I think you might have saw his fight on Contender Series. He got dropped and then he came back and got the knockout. I think he's undefeated in the UFC right now. He's 2-0, I believe. Um, he's been doing a lot of training at AKA with Dustin Poirier and Masvidal. I think he's going to come out. He might get hit a little bit. He'll get back up, and I think he's going to grind it out. Um, and I think he'll get a decision win. I don't think it'll be the prettiest of fights. That's just like he doesn't fight very clean, but he fights effective, and I'm really excited to see that one. I don't think I've ever seen a Scottish fighter go out there and have a clean performance. Now that I think about it,
Yeah, I
maybe
don't think so either. Like, I know another Scottish fighter is Joanne Wood.
Calder
Yep.
and Paul Craig.
Yeah, oh, yeah, him too. I was thinking that.
Stevie Ray, he's not in the UFC. Actually, he's retired now.
Oh,
Danny Henry, um, who else? Paul Whiteford. They had tons.
Stevie Ray in PFL.
He retired. He beat.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Um, I think he came in. He had a split decision loss. I want to say in his PFL debut, and then he beat Anthony Pettis by twister, and then again a few weeks later by unanimous decision, 30-27 or 30-26 maybe. And then he fought Oliver. How do you say his name? OAM. Oliver.
Bob Mercier, the
Yeah,
Canadian dude.
yeah, yeah, the Canadian guy. He fought him for the PFL championship, and I think he got knocked out in the second round, sadly. Uh,
Dang.
I know, and then he tried to make a comeback in the last season. Who did he fight? He fought. I can't remember who he fought, but he lost. And then he fought Clay Pollard, I want to say, and
Oh,
he
yeah,
lost by TKO in the second round. So yeah, it was quite sad, but
and
that's
then he retired after that.
yeah. I think he's trying to look to make one last fight because Cage Warriors.
Yeah, I do.
They're doing a show in Glasgow in April, and I want to say I think I heard something about Stevie Ray wanting to maybe have a homecoming fight, but I'm not 100% sure. I think I read that somewhere. I read it on some small MMA forum thing, so I don't know how true that is. But if that happens, I'll be really excited for
Yeah, well, I appreciate your time and joining me on this prediction video. Any shout outs or any plugs you want to make before we wrap this up?
that. Follow Slick Striking on Instagram and
Yes, he's got
follow
some great edits for sure.
exactly, yeah. And if you're a striker or a fighter and you want someone to help promote you a little bit, send them a message. I'm pretty sure he'll be happy to help. And
Definitely.
follow Jumpman Carter on
Yep,
Instagram.
that's me.
Right, I'll see you later, guys.
All right.
Right,
Thank
bye.
you for tuning in, everyone.